Hello and welcome. Today we are delighted to have Professor G. Shivakumar amongst us. Professor G. Shivakumar is a distinguished faculty member in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay. His primary research interests lie in the application of logic in computer science with a current focus on formal verification of safety-critical real-time systems. Beyond formal methods, he has also worked extensively in areas like computer network and open source systems. As a passionate advocate of Linux and free software, he has actively promoted their adoption in academia and industry. He has contributed to the development of campus computing infrastructure and supported national initiatives like the Open Source Software Research Center at Mumbai. In addition to mentoring numerous PhDs and masters, he is an avid chess enthusiast and the connoisseur of Carnatic music. Welcome, Professor. So the first question is, given your experience in formal verification and real-time systems, how do you feel? What is your take on the balance between rapid AI prototyping and the rigor required for safe deployment of these systems?
So, if you focus on the safety critical as the keyword to what I have been working on in formal methods, the safety factor is a system that can cause damage. Like we had a recent airplane crash where one of the possible reasons could be software failure, or there could be some self-driving car which causes damage, or there could be software which causes hurt to people. So rapid prototyping in software engineering is not in such domains where there can be a loss of life and property. In such systems, obviously, we have to be exercise a lot more caution. And but in other domains, going by the normal proverb, nothing ventured, nothing gained. The philosophy of agile software engineering is not to keep designing systems until they are perfect, but to start prototyping it, like you said, in AI, and have a evaluation of how good it is or how easy it is to build, and as we go along, improve the system. So these are not conflicting ideas. We have to look at the domain, we have to analyze the risks, and then take the call whether to slow down. So in addition to safety, in AI, the particular concern now is the other word that you used, which is called ethics. Now, ethical things are for two reasons. There is a profit motive, and therefore you can have, when you talk in domains like health and finance and so on, if AI is generating information, we have to ensure that there is no bias or there is no hidden agenda. In that sense, ethical values also have to be, but ethical values usually come from a regulator or a third party, not the software developer. So we need to have these checks and balances. So this is the difference between safety critical software and rapid prototyping of AI applications, in my opinion.
So you have always championed open source computing. So what personal beliefs do you think that has driven you towards this end? And what suggestion would you like to give to students who want to align their work in the similar field?
I would not use the word open source, but open standards. Okay, so and open source, they are very interconnected words, and there are two reasons for my belief in this. It's not just the cost. Okay, the cost of licensing and this thing is one aspect, but the more important aspect is the freedom. Okay, the freedom to modify, the freedom to adapt, the freedom to interoperate. And open source is an example of software which usually conforms to interoperable standards. This allows us to build more complex systems much more easily, like API programming. So the API then allows you to integrate many different small pieces, just like in the Unix system. And therefore, I have always believed that the correct way to develop a big system, which it contradicts the view of some of the companies who are in for the money aspect or the profit aspect, is not to lock in the user, but to have an open standard based application, and preferably with open source, so that people can modify, extend, and use it in different settings than it was originally intended. I think all students should be aware of this difference, and they should try to make sure that their software is beyond what they initially designed. It will have a lot of value if they stick to this open standards and interoperability. So, and the second reason why open source is very important is what we are doing in our trust lab. that software for which you do not have access to the source, you cannot trust. There could be hidden trojans and time bombs and so on and so forth. So therefore, if you are having access to the source, the risk of such attacks against your system are much less and can be better handled.
So the next question will be your interest span both the technical and the artistic side. You have worked in networks, formal verification, and also you have a keen interest in kinetic music. So how do you think this multidimensional curiosity shapes the life of a researcher in particular?
You used a very nice word, curiosity, and they say curiosity kills the cat. So that's in a lighter vein. But curiosity does not have a particular topic, and you cannot be curious only. A person with a curious or an inquiring mind typically is able to ask questions on different aspects, and depending on your background and how you are brought up and your opportunities and your exposure, a person with a curious mind gets a chance to explore different aspects of life. That is what has been my path on this. And when I was young, I had listened to many Carnatic music concerts. I used to play in chess tournaments. And of course, mathematics was one of my passions and so on. And therefore, I'm pretty sure a lot of students have like this. Nobody is one-dimensional. And this is something that students will do well to, make sure that they don't become one-dimensional. That your interest and your curiosity and your intellectual prowess will be much more satisfying if you are able to make time for different aspects of life other than pure academics alone. That's my advice to students.
So what is in your view CFILT's contribution to the Indian research landscape, and how do you think it has played its role in merging the two fields of technicality and linguistic approach in NLP, especially in Indian NLP?
As you know, India is a very diverse country, and often we think diversity adds to strength. It also is a weakness and causes some fault lines, especially as you know in the current political situation. Language does play a divisive role. In that sense, I think CFILT is one of the type of labs or organizations which can have a huge impact in bridging this gap. So CFILT has led several efforts in this. They have formed a consortium of people from different universities across the country, and I have personally watched with pleasure their work in what's called cross-lingual information access. And resource-poor languages, not all languages in India have enough resources on the digital form and so on. And therefore, the research at IIT Bombay has helped to translate the resources available in one language and use it to implement good translations and make much more material easily accessible in other languages. So I would think this is a very praiseworthy effort. And this has been one of the, in my opinion, the key WordNet, which sort of maps all this and allows people to write applications on this. Of course, in terms of real world applications, as they say, it is 99% perspiration. The inspiration that comes from here requires a lot of hard work before it translates into especially if you are thinking in terms of profitable real world application with some revenue stream and so on. That is a challenge for our students to take up and then form their own startups and companies or join existing companies and take the benefit to the common person. But in terms of education and in terms of making a lot of valuable information accessible, CFILT's core contribution will play a very leading role. And I wish them all success.